Reading through the Bible in 1 year, April 29th, Numbers 7, 44 through 89, Ecclesiastes 1, John 11, 38 through 12, 8, and James 5. So we already read through this part up to 48. So we're going to continue on from here. Again, it's the same thing over and over and over. Just know that's what's going to happen. So on the seventh day, Elishama, there we go, the son of Ammihud. There's one down here or two that I'm just going to mangle. The chief of the people of Ephraim. His offering was 1 silver plate, whose weight was 130 shekels, 1 silver basin of 70 shekels, according to the shekel of the sanctuary. Both of them full of fine flour mixed with oil for grain offering. 1 golden dish of 10 shekels, full of incense, 1 bull from the herd, 1 ram, 1 male lamb a year old for a burnt offering, 1 male goat for a sin offering, and for the sacrifice of peace offerings, 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 male goats, and 5 male lambs a year old. This was the offering of Elishama, that guy, the son of Ammihud. On the 8th day, Gamaliel, the son of Pedazur, chief of the people of Manasseh, his offering was 1 silver plate, whose weight was 130 shekels, 1 silver basin of 70 shekels, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, both of them full of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering. 1 golden dish of 10 shekels, full of incense, 1 bull from the herd, 1 ram, 1 male lamb a year old for a burnt offering, 1 male goat for a sin offering, and for the sacrifice of peace offerings, 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 male goats, 5 male lambs a year old. This was the offering of Gamaliel, the son of Pedazur. On the 9th day, Abidan, the son of Gideoni, the chief of the people of Benjamin. His offering was 1 silver plate, whose weight was 130 shekels, 1 silver basin of 70 shekels, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, both of them full of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering. 1 golden dish of 10 shekels, full of incense, 1 bull from the herd, 1 ram, 1 male lamb a year old for a burnt offering, 1 male goat for a sin offering, and for the sacrifice of peace offerings, 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 male goats, and 5 male lambs a year old. This was the offering of Abidan, son of Gideoni. Or Gideoni, but I'm pretty sure it's Gideoni. On the 10th day, Ahiezer, the son of Ammishaddai, every time, the chief of the people of Dan, his offering was 1 silver plate, whose weight was 130 shekels, 1 silver basin of 70 shekels, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, both of them full of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering. 1 golden dish of 10 shekels, full of incense, 1 bull from the herd, 1 ram, 1 male lamb a year old for a burnt offering, 1 male goat for a sin offering, and for the sacrifice of peace offerings, 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 male goats, and 5 male lambs a year old. This was the offering of Ahiezer, the son of Ammishaddai. On the 11th day, Pagiel, the son of Ochran, chief of the people of Asher. His offering was 1 silver plate, whose weight was 130 shekels, 1 silver basin of 70 shekels, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, both of them full of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering. 1 golden dish of 10 shekels, full of incense, 1 bull from the herd, 1 ram, 1 male lamb a year old for a burnt offering, 1 male goat for a sin offering, and for the sacrifice of peace offerings, 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 male goats, and 5 male lambs a year old. This was the offering of Pagiel, son of Ochran. On the 12th day, Ahira, the son of Enan, the chief of the people of Naphtali. His offering was 1 silver plate, whose weight was 130 shekels, 1 silver basin of 70 shekels, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, both of them full of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering. 1 golden dish of 10 shekels, full of incense, 1 bull from the herd, 1 ram, 1 male lamb a year old for a burnt offering, 1 male goat for a sin offering, and for the sacrifice of peace offerings, 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 male goats, and 5 male lambs a year old. This was the offering of Ahira, the son of Enan. This was the dedication offering for the altar on the day when it was anointed from the chiefs of Israel. 12 silver plates, 12 silver basins, 12 golden dishes, each silver plate weighing 130 shekels, and each basin 70, all the silver of the vessels, 2,400 shekels, according to the shekel of the sanctuary. The 12 golden dishes, full of incense, weighing 10 shekels apiece, according to the shekel of the sanctuary. All the gold of the dishes, being 120 shekels. All the cattle for the burnt offering, 12 bulls, 12 rams, 12 male lambs a year old with their grain offering, and 12 male goats for a sin offering. And all the cattle for the for the sacrifice of peace offerings, 24 bulls, the rams 60, the male goats 60, the male lambs a year old 60. This was the dedication offering for the altar after it was anointed. And when Moses went into the tent of meeting to speak with the Lord, he heard the voice speaking to him from above the mercy seat that was on the ark of the testimony, from between the 2 cherubim, and it spoke to him. So now we are in Ecclesiastes 1. So this preacher, the one that we're going to read about here, this is Solomon. So I'm going to read the introduction on it here. Ecclesiastes contains reflections of an old man, the air quotes preacher, as he considers the question of meaning in life. He looked back and saw the futility, vanity. You're going to see vanity mentioned a bunch of times. It means futility of chasing after even the good things that this life can offer, including wisdom, work, pleasure, and wealth. Even if such things are satisfying for a time, death is certain to end this satisfaction. In fact, God's judgment on Adam for his sin in Genesis 3 echoes throughout the book, especially in 12:7. Yet the person who lives in the fear of the Lord can enjoy God's good gifts. Young people, especially, should remember their Creator while they still have their whole lives before them. Traditionally, interpreters of Ecclesiastes have identified the preacher, who is also called the son of David, king in Jerusalem, as Solomon in the 10th century BC. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. Vanity of vanities. All is vanity, or everything is futile. What does man gain by all the toil at which he toils under the sun? Your work that you do during the day. A generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun goes down and hastens to the place where it rises again. The wind blows to the south and goes around to the north. Around and around goes the wind, and on its circuits the wind returns. All streams run to the sea, but the sea is not full. To the place where the stream flows, there they flow again. All things are full of weariness. A man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done. There is nothing new under the sun. If you're going to wrap up the entire book, or the bulk of the book until we get to chapters, I think it's 9 and 12, everything can be wrapped up in this one statement. There is nothing new under the sun. He's going to seek out every way that he possibly can to try to fulfill this. His own internal desire for things and for pleasure and for making himself feel full. But he's not going to be able to do that. Sorry, should have said spoiler alert. Is there a thing of which it is said, see, this is new? It has been already done in the ages before us. There is no remembrance of former things, nor will there be any remembrance of latter things yet to be among those who come after. People keep repeating the same cycles over and over. I, the preacher, have been king over Israel in Jerusalem, and I applied my heart, he put himself to the work, to seek and to search out by wisdom all that is done under heaven. It is an unhappy business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. I have seen everything that is done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and a striving after the wind. What is crooked cannot be made straight, and what is lacking cannot be counted. I said in my heart, I have acquired great wisdom, surpassing all who are over Jerusalem before me. And my heart has had great experience of wisdom and knowledge. And I applied my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. I perceive that this also is but a striving after the wind. For in much wisdom is much vexation, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. Now John 11:38 through 12:8, which I'm glad to see. So, continuing on. So Jesus, starting at the beginning of chapter 11, was told that a friend of his, Lazarus, who lived in Bethany, the brother of Mary and Martha, was very sick. So he said, all right, our friend Lazarus is very ill. He's near the point of death. So I have to stay where I am for 2 more days instead of going to help him. Now he had been staying out of Judea because the Jews had already promised to kill him if he came back, because he had been directly attacking them for what they believed and what they said. He was calling them to task on what they were doing. So they were threatening to kill him, right? So when he told the disciples, okay, well now Lazarus is finally dead, though he said he has fallen asleep, they didn't quite understand that. What he meant was that he is for a Christian, death is it's passing through into eternity. It's not like the end. All right, when I was an atheist, I believed that that death was like turning off a television. It's on and it's doing things, and you turn it off and then there's nothing. That's it. But since God has made me a Christian, I've learned that that's not the case at all. This is merely our life here is merely the porch outside the home, because there's still so much more to go after we die. But that said, the common term for death in the New Testament age was sleep. Because again, to be absent from the body, dead, is to be present with the Lord. So Jesus had told them that Lazarus had fallen asleep. They immediately said, well, if he fell asleep, he's going to wake up. Why do we need to go? And he said, no, he's dead. I need to go to him. So then they said, okay, well, if you're going there to Judea, they're probably going to try to kill you. So let them kill us again, or let them kill us as well. So Jesus went and he spoke to Martha and to Mary. And both of them said, if you were here, he would not have died. And Jesus says, well, it's for your sake that I wasn't here, so that you can see the power of God. He's going to do an amazing thing in front of them. So they are now going to the tomb. So here we pick it up in verse 38. Then Jesus, deeply moved again, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay against it. And Jesus said, take away the stone. And Martha, the sister of the dead man, said to him, Lord, by this time there will be an odor, for it has been 4 days. I'm not a huge fan of the King James, but I love the term that the King James uses for this. Apparently he stinketh, or it will stinketh. There will be a stench of death because he's been 4 days rotting. And Jesus said to her, did I not tell you that if you believed that you would see the glory of God? So they took away the stone, and Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father. Again, he's not talking. He's not praying to God that God would do a thing. He's saying this out loud so other people around him could hear what he's saying. Father, I thank you that you have heard me, past tense. He knows that God is going to hear him. And I know that you are always hear me. But I said this on account of the people standing around, that they may believe that you sent me. When he had said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. The man who had died came out, his hands and feet bound with linen strips, and his face wrapped with a cloth. And Jesus said to them, unbind him and let him go. So, of course, everybody's like cheering, right? Yay, he's back alive with us. Great. So many of the Jews, therefore, who had come with Mary and had seen what he did, believed in him. It's good. But some of them went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done. Did you know that this Jesus raised a guy who was 4 days dead? So the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered the council and said, "What are we to do? For this man performs many signs. If we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him, and the Romans will come and take away our place and our nation." They were worried about losing their political clout, losing their power over the people. But one of them, Caiaphas, who was high priest that year, said to them, "You know nothing at all, nor do you understand that it is better for you that one man should die for the people, not that the whole nation should perish." Don't worry, that happens in 70 AD. He did not say this of his own accord, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus would die for the nation, and not for the nation only, but also to gather into one the children of God who were scattered abroad. No, it didn't say the Israelites, it says the children of God. This includes the Gentiles. So, though they didn't recognize that at the time. So from that day on, they made plans to put him to death. Because he's proven himself to be the Son of God, and to have the power of God, but he's not doing what they want him to. They want him to be a conquering ruler who's going to get rid of those Romans and raise up the Jewish people as the pinnacle of achievement, right? And to make the Jewish people the greatest people in all the land. That's what they wanted. But this is not what he's doing. So Jesus, therefore, no longer walked openly among the Jews, but went from there to the region near the wilderness, to a town called Ephraim, and there he stayed with the disciples. Now, the Passover of the Jews was at hand, and many went up from the country to Jerusalem before the Passover to purify themselves. And they were looking for Jesus and saying to one another as they stood in the temple, What do you think? That he will not come to the feast at all? Now the chief priests and the Pharisees had given orders that if anyone knew where he was, he should let them know so that they might arrest him. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus therefore came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. So they gave a dinner for him there. Martha served, and Lazarus was one of those reclining with him at table. Mary therefore took a pound of expensive ointment made from pure nard, and anointed the feet of Jesus and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But Judas Iscariot, one of his disciples, he who was about to betray him, said, "Why was this ointment not sold for 300 denarii and given to the poor?" He had said this not because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. Having charge of the money bag, he used to help himself to what was put into it. Remember, Jesus knew this about him and made him in charge of the money bag. Jesus said, "Leave her alone, so that she may keep it for the day of my burial. For the poor you always have with you, but you do not always have me." And we're going to James 5. So James is continuing now and explaining, as mentioned before, the orthopraxy, right? The practical applications of the Christian life. "Come now, you rich, weep and howl for the miseries that are coming upon you. Your riches have rotted and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver have corroded, and their corrosion will be evidence against you and will eat your flesh like fire. You have laid up treasure in the last days." It's like if you're stuck on a ship that's sinking. And so everyone else is, fled the ship, but you're running around trying to gather all the money you possibly can. What good is it going to be when you sink with the ship under the waves? Right? "Behold, the wages of the laborer who mowed your fields, which you kept back by fraud, are crying out against you. And the cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord of hosts. You have lived on the earth in luxury and in self-indulgence. You have fattened your hearts in a day of slaughter. You have condemned and murdered the righteous person. He does not resist you. Now let's read a little side note on this, because there's a lot of people who get confused by this, right? So, because they're like, oh, well, we're therefore to be poor people all the time. And that's not entirely true. The rich person is to be open-handed with his money, not holding on to it in greed, but willingly giving it away. I mean, if, like we've done, if you happen to have a spare laptop that someone needs, because I'm a nerd and I happen to have these, I will give that laptop to someone who needs it. I've done that before. That's the kind of thing where if you have something that someone else has need of, you open your hand willingly and you give it to them. That's what it means to be a righteous rich person, right? So the note here on 5:1, the Bible nowhere condemns wealth itself. In fact, it is often viewed as the blessing of God, Proverbs 10:22. However, the rich as a social class may sometimes be guilty of exploiting and oppressing the poor. Many of them live as if there is no God who rules over everything. God reserves severe judgment for those who live in such a manner. Be patient, therefore, brothers, until the coming of the Lord. See how the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the earth, being patient about it, until it receives the early and late rains. You also be patient. Establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord is at hand. Do not grumble against one another, brothers, so that you may not be judged. Behold, the judge is standing at the door. As an example of suffering and patience, brothers, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. Behold, we consider those blessed who remain steadfast. You have heard of the steadfastness of Job, and you have seen the purpose of the Lord, how the Lord is compassionate and merciful. But above all, my brothers, do not swear either by heaven or by earth or by any other oath, but let your yes be yes and your no be no, so that you may not fall under condemnation. Is anyone among you suffering? Let him pray. Is anyone cheerful? Let him sing praise. Is anyone among you sick? Let him call for the elders of the church, and let them pray over him, anointing him with oil in the name of the Lord. And the prayer of faith will save the one who is sick, and the Lord will raise him up. And if he has committed sins, he will be forgiven. Therefore, confess your sins to one another, and pray for one another, that you may be healed. The prayer of a righteous person has great power as it is working. Elijah was a man with a nature like ours, and he prayed fervently that it might not rain. And for 3 years and 6 months, it did not rain on the earth. Then he prayed again, and heaven gave rain, and the earth bore its fruit. My brothers, if anyone among you wanders from the truth, and someone brings him back, know that whoever brings back a sinner from his wandering will save his soul from death and will cover a multitude of sins. Behold, the word of the Lord.